An executive order for the construction of a Mexican border wall. Building the wall has been one of his major poll promises. And Sri Lanka secured a series win over South Africa as they triumphed by 5 wickets in a thrilling third T20 international in Cape Town. The ANC Youth League has taken up the cause now, which was abandoned by the EFF. The Youth League leadership is planning to hold demonstrations at various ABSA branches across the country today. In an attempt to put pressure on ABSA, the ANC Youth League has called on all young South Africans to call into the bank's call centre to ask when the money will be paid back. Thousands of young South Africans have been mobilised for the nationwide protests. According to the Public Protector's preliminary report, the bank may be liable to pay a whopping 2.3 billion rand to government as a result of its acquisition of Bancorp, an apartheid-era bank that was bailed out by the Reserve Bank.
The ANC Youth League has noted the criminality in the financial sector. The ANC Youth League believes that there was criminality and fraud in the transaction that involved Bancorp, which was ultimately bought by ABSA, and the Reserve Bank played a role. The criminality must never go unpunished because it is what feeds white monopoly capital. We call on the Public Protector to speedily issue the report with remedial actions which are binding as per the Constitutional Court judgment, and we are confident that ABSA will be held accountable as there are other reports that have been issued before. We are being told go and focus on SAA, but billions continue to leave this country. Billions were looted in this country. We're not talking about a chairperson. What do you think a chairperson of a board is going to do in changing changing what happens in the board?
The League has been persistent in raising its voice against apartheid-era corruption and ABSA's alleged role in it. The League insists that criminality must never go unpunished. Earlier, they had called on the government to withdraw its accounts from ABSA. It had also lobbied for the government to move their accounts to Postbank. The ANC Youth League has repeatedly said they will pursue ABSA to repay the money that they are holding on to. The ANC Youth League has accused Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan and Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa of directly influencing South African Airways in a bid to sabotage the airline. The Youth League says that this must be done to benefit companies they have interests in. Speaking at a press briefing in Pretoria on Wednesday, the ANC Youth League charged the Finance Minister with appointing a consultant which instructed the airline to take everything to Bidvest. They charge that both have an interest in Bidvest, which is behind the calls for SAA to close its routes so that Comair can take over. The ANC Youth League says it will lobby for SAA to go back to Public Enterprise Ministry rather than remain under Treasury administration as it is now.
When SAA was moved from Public Enterprise and it went to Treasury for a turnaround strategy, the Minister of Finance, Comrade Pravin Gordhan, appointed a consultant which serves as a board consultant called C-View Perry Consultant. And that board, the first thing it does, it tells SAA that it must take every other thing to a company called Bidvest. Who is at Bidvest? Amongst those that we know at Bidvest is the Deputy President of the African National Congress and that of our government, Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa. But who else is there? It is the Minister himself, Pravin Gordhan.
The South African National Civic Organization in the Free State has backed Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma to succeed President Jacob Zuma as ANC president. Sanko Free State put forward Dr. Dlamini Zuma's name due to her political experience. It believes she has the capability to unite and lead the ANC. Working together with Ace Magashula as Secretary General, it says they could rescue the movement from its current state. Sanko Free State would seek Sanko NEC support for the names as its next meeting is scheduled to sit on the weekend of the 25th of February. The ANC is due to hold its succession conference in December. The ad hoc committee on SABC is reconvening today to finalize the draft report, which is expected to be released in February. In the dark are witnesses who may have provided the committee with false information. Committee Chair Vincent Smith had earlier bemoaned the contradicting testimonies and said that people will be brought to book. Parliament's legal advisers will be drawing up a list of such witnesses who may have lied under oath. Meanwhile, members of Parliament will spend the next few days finalising the inquiry's draft report and recommendation. It will be interesting to see if the final report is any different from the interim report, which was leaked earlier in the media. The key points highlighted in the interim report included condemning and exposing political interference at the state broadcaster, clarity on the relationship between SABC, shareholder, ministry and Parliament, witnesses found guilty of giving false or misleading testimony to be sanctioned, review feasibility of the agreements with rival television stations, probe costs incurred by the SABC in hosting the TNA breakfast show, legal costs incurred on court challenge by previous SABC board chair to be recovered from him, critical senior positions related to financial and HR management be filled, and that SABC should report to parliamentary panel over finances and HR policy. US President Donald Trump has issued an executive order for the construction of a Mexican border wall. Building the wall has been one of his major poll promises. During his election campaign, Trump said Mexico would pay for the wall, which he said would cost about $8 billion US. Trump also signed another executive order aimed at cracking down on US cities that shield illegal immigrants, moving quickly on sweeping and divisive plans to curb immigration and boost national security.
A lot of people didn't take it seriously when Donald Trump says that he's going to build a wall and keep terrorists and criminals out. But the fact of the matter is that Donald Trump has surrounded himself with people who are very willing to do it, and they are going to do it. They're going to do everything in their power to make sure that every single immigrant is deported from this country. And it's no joke. We are in danger. We can't allow people to try and make us go to sleep again, to try and make us feel like we're okay, that everything's safe. That's how Donald Trump got elected as a president.
We want to do something to show the world that President Trump does not represent the United States, the majority of the United States. The wall is not the answer. We want to promote humane immigration policies and promote the fact that love has no borders. This is not going to secure anything. It just sends a message of death and of hate.
Well, what I know about building the wall is that President Donald Trump just approved new 5,000 federal agents in construction of the new wall, which I believe will not really make a big difference because I believe the social movement people find different ways to cross, which is through the border in cars, flying. I think a high percentage is flying, so I really believe that it's just more a waste of money.
And joining me in studio to further unpack this is Tinashe Chuchu, an international political analyst from the School of Economic Business Sciences. A very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us here on Morning Prime.
Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure. So much debate surrounding the building of a Mexican border wall. And now Donald Trump has issued an executive order. What are your thoughts on this, and how long could the process be before construction actually begins?
Okay. The thing is, what will happen is this has to be passed by Congress, and usually in American politics there's a lot of red tape, but right now Congress is on his side because he controls, the Republicans control both houses of Congress, the Senate and the House of Representatives. So this might likely be passed, but now it has a lot of financial implications in the sense that to cover 2,000 miles, to put it in context for our local viewers, it's about 4,000 kilometers. He's going to need about $25 billion US. And right now, to actually finance that, American taxpayers have to foot the bill, and he's saying Mexico will reimburse it. But initially, the campaign had said Mexico will pay for it. But right now, Peña Nieto is actually on the line, the Mexican president. If Mexicans have to pay for this, I don't think he would get re-elected.
Yeah, definitely not at all. Now, much protest regarding this after an executive order is issued. Is there anything the people who are protesting can actually do?
The thing is, people who are protesting can sort of influence their representatives, because very soon we're going to have the midterm elections where Republicans and Democrats alike will run for Senate positions and House positions. So if your state representative feels that he or she might lose in the next midterm election, probably they might block Trump, because there's no way he's going to pass a bill or a budget without congressional support.
Now, Trump has also signed another executive order aimed at cracking down on U.S. cities that shield illegal immigrants. What does this entail exactly?
Okay, the thing is they have something they call sanctuary cities. So these sanctuary cities, they offer shelter for people who get into this U.S. system but who are not documented. So the thing is, what will actually happen is he's saying it's going to lower down the crime rate. But when people actually look at the stats, they discover that the people who commit the most crime are not necessarily people who are coming from Mexico, because they're actually trying to keep a low profile so that they don't get deported.
That's very interesting. Now, he's trying to get rid of these immigrants, and immigrants, as we've said, are not only from Mexico. In fact, there are many from around the world in America. Do you think Trump has taken this into consideration in terms of his policies?
I think in terms of his policies, this was a major campaign promise. So at the end of the day, let's say he deports all these illegals and you find that the economy actually doesn't benefit from that. That's appealing to the base. So what would happen is he might actually get re-elected because he's following through a campaign promise. But I don't necessarily think that removing all illegal immigrants is the solution to creating jobs, because factories were closed not because of immigrants.
Exactly. Talking about these factories being closed, I mean, if immigrants start leaving, I mean, they make up a huge part of the labor and workforce within the United States of America. This would ultimately affect the economy too.
Yes, yes.
So tell us more about that, yeah.
Yes, that's actually 11 million people we're talking about, almost the size of Gauteng. So all these immigrants that are coming from Central America, South America, they are actually doing jobs that Americans themselves don't want, like working in construction, working as domestic workers. So I think losing 11 million people is going to be devastating for the U.S.
So where to from here? What do you foresee?
I think he's going to follow through his campaign promise, but I don't necessarily think he's going to remove 11 million people at one go. Maybe he's going to remove people in pockets in such a way that it doesn't actually harm the industries, but people will see that he's actually deporting illegals. And on top of that, I think in terms of the wall, something has to be put in place before the midterm elections, because for him to get re-elected, he has to follow through his promises.
And we obviously can expect a lot more protest on the streets.
Yes, even the Keystone Pipeline, there are going to be a lot of protests, and just for a few states, the women's protest actually had more people than the inauguration.
Oh my word.
Yes, and I've never seen an inauguration that actually had protests. It doesn't mean that Obama, people liked him, because half the country didn't like him. But there were no protests when he got elected.
Very interesting indeed. Yes. Well, thank you so much for your time here on Morning Prime and your professional opinion. We really do appreciate it. That is an international political analyst, Tinashe Chuchu from the School of Economic Business Science, talking there. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Moving on now to other stories. Yesterday, friends, family, artists and politicians came out in droves at Germiston Hall to celebrate Claasen's life. ANN7 reporter Natasha Perry attended the memorial service.
Yet another feast of music, all in honor of the colorful festive life Thandi Klaasen lived out for 86 years. This was the order of the day, speaker after speaker sharing a piece of music that reminds them of Klaasen, who performed across the globe during apartheid and to her last days in life. The jazz icon died on the 15th of January from cancer. Other speakers preferred to share fond memories with her.
She was a fashionista, an artist, a singer, an actress. She meant everything to a lot of people, and especially to us, her grandchildren. My grandmother is the rock of our family.
She was our unshakable pillar of strength. To the world, though, she was known as the world-famous Thandi Klaasen, the artist, the performer, who was loved by so many people. But I truly believe that the turning point in my grandmother's life was the day of that petrol fire. That day, the fire was set to put an end to her rising star.
Scores of friends, colleagues and admirers of Klassen gathered at the Germiston City Hall to comfort the family, but all ended up celebrating and laughing about the good times of Klassen.
These tributes express a sense of both loss and celebration of a life well lived, as if taking cue from these airways during this week.